This holiday, switch to Cricket Wireless and get a free 4G LTE smartphone with no annual contract. Switch to Cricket to get a free smartphone is free. Free smartphone, really free. Cricket Wireless, something to smile about.
Requires number ported and service activation. Minimum $30 per month. Applies to ZTE Overture 3. First month service charge and in-store activation fee up to $25 due at sale. Tax and restrictions apply. One-time fees may apply. See store for details.
Welcome to Define You Radio. Class is in session with your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. Are you ready to unapologetically build your confidence, achieve goals, and design a life worth living? Learn the life lessons and strategies to define your life, money, and business. Pens and papers ready? Class is now in session.
Hello, and welcome to Define You Radio. Classes in session. I am really feeling the new intro, guys. I really want to know what you think about the new intro versus the old one. I'm feeling it. Let me know what you guys think, okay? I am your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. Just in case this is your first time tuning in and you weren't sure who I am. Session is a live show. It's all the way live, where we teach women how to unapologetically build their confidence, achieve goals, and design a life worth living. Each show discusses the life lessons and strategies and more from guests who have decided to define their life, money, business, and just life, period, all aspects of life. Thank you again for tuning in, and make sure you connect with the show on Facebook. Now, today's session, and if you guys have listened to the show before, you'll recognize the voice. Today's session is with Miss Precious Brown. We're talking about the beauty in transition. No matter how good, bad, or ugly, there is beauty in transition. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Precious, just in case you don't know and this is your first time. She is a certified life coach and writing expert. She is the founder of Kilgore Publishing, LLC, where she has written and released her interactive workbook series, The Process of Change, and the best-selling book, which I was honored to be part of, Transition, Create the Life You Desire. Her fifth book, Transition, Ashes, Emanating Beauty. Y'all have to excuse me because me and that word's fighting tonight, okay? Which I am also a part of. Yay! It will be released June 2017. That means this month. That's why we are talking about transition. She currently assists aspiring writers, guys, to create masterpieces by writing their story and sharing their journey through the power of the pen. Pen and paper's ready, guys. Let's go ahead and welcome Miss Precious to the show.
Hi. Hey, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. Thank you, V, for having me on again.
Well, I know you're like a alumni, you know, of the show, Queen P. You guys know that's what I call her. So, what you think of the new intro? Be gentle, be easy.
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
You like it? I'm adjusting. I like it. I love it, and I like it. And I'm adjusting to it. You know, that transition from the old to the new is never an easy thing, but there's beauty in it. So it's as long as it's a head bottom up the show, I'm good.
Yeah, it takes a
Queen
minute
P.
to adjust to when you're used to one thing. It definitely takes a minute.
Right. Yes, and I'm adjusting, and I've gotten good feedback, and I'm still filling it out, playing with it. So for those that don't know you, and I know I just gave a beautiful intro, but why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit more about Queen P?
Well, I think you covered much. What else about me? I am a woman of God. I have children. I have 4 amazing children and 6 grandchildren. One more is on the way for September, and I'm praying it's the final of the Mohicans. I love writing and helping others write their story, and so that it can inspire, encourage, and help other people, be it their memoir, their educational books, relatable stories on different aspects of life, whatever it may be. Is I just love to write. All things writing and books. I love it.
Well, my thing with writing, since you're all about the pen, the power of the pen and writing, and I know from being in transition 1 and the transition 2, writing is easier said than done. Or it's an easier thought, like I'm gonna write, but actually the process is not as easy because you have to be in the mood to write. So to me, that's like something, almost a difficult process. What was that defining moment in your life when you said, you know what, I'm going to write some stuff?
Well, I always wanted to write a book. I was fascinated with authors, so to speak. I always wanted to write. I just didn't think I could. I am an avid reader. I read almost anything that's in print. So I always had a idea of a book in mind, but it wasn't until I went through the first divorce. Well, we hadn't even gotten divorced. It was the first breakup, and I started going through that change process. And I didn't understand it all, but it came to a point where I just felt so full on the inside, I didn't know what else to do. So I started to write. And it just kind of unfolded from there.
So part of your process or part of your defining moment was that transition. And I will be dropping times throughout the interview tonight. And that's like a huge transition in itself, going from married to divorce. And I love that you used that. That was actually almost like your first, I guess, writing transition, like transition, the prequel, so to speak.
The prequel, I like that.
So the pre-transition. So if you ever go back and redo it, you could actually put the prequel in parentheses. I'm just saying, I'm feeling that title.
Right. So it was that time in my life. It was very dark. It was very difficult. I had a super hard time with it. I had been with him since we were 19 years old. At the time of the breakup, I was 36. And it was a huge adjustment. That's why when you said you're still dealing with the intro, you're still getting used to it, because it is a huge transition going from what seemed to be your normal, and now all of a sudden things change and you have to adjust. So that transition period was 6 years. It took me from the breakup to be able to write that book. That was a 6-year span, because I went through so much, and just getting to know who I was, getting to know what made me tick, because I left my parents' house, went to, and many of you may have heard the story, I left my parents' house, I became a wife and a mother, and it was all about the family. Then when we broke up, it was all about the kids. And right when I identified the transition, when I began to write, my youngest was, I want to say 16. So he was the last one in the house. And it was like, now what am I going to do? Because everything had been about everybody else. Now what am I going to do? So not only did I make the transition from married to divorce, now I'm making the transition from a full house to an empty nest. So it was a lot going on.
Yeah, those are huge transitions because, you know, normally the outside world changes, and at home in our little safe place in our cubby hole, we could depend on the stability of that. And your stability, your cubby hole, your safe place was going through a major transition. So
absolutely,
kudos to you for handling it like a boss. I'm sure after you handled it like a boss, but you didn't break.
No.
You didn't break. You went through your period, right? And did what you need to do, and then you wrote about it.
Right.
You wrote about it.
There was a time when in the process, in the thick of it, and I talked about that earlier today, in the grit, it was like, how dare you? And then it went from sad to angry to disbelief to, okay, get a grip, to now what? And that is, when I say those stages, I can name them like that, but it was not simple. It was not fast. It did not feel good. So transition can be very difficult depending on what it is that is being transitioned. And for me, it was my entire life frame as I knew it. It changed. That one event changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Wow. I love that you said earlier about you have to change. And then something you just hit on about the stages, I'm sure was much like the stages of grief, because you were losing something, but you had to lose in order to really gain who Precious was meant to be.
Absolutely. And going through it, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand. All I knew is I wanted my marriage. And how did we get here? And why is this happening? But it wasn't until I took my focus off of what was the situation and placed my focus on God, like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? When I started asking questions like that, things began to evolve. And not all of them did I immediately gravitate towards. It was something like after I wrote the first book, after I wrote the first book, it was like speaking and, you know, getting invited to different places and having book signings and all these different things. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not what this is about. And then women started reaching out, you know, asking for help, and they wanted assistance with different areas of their life. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So at first I didn't embrace it. It wasn't until the second book, when I wrote Love Yourself, and I understood who Precious was clearly, what I was called to do, and that it was okay for me to show me love. And once I did that, it was like, okay, now I can help somebody else go through their processes of transition.
So speaking of transition, let's talk about transition 1. If you want to go ahead and transition 1, create the life you desire. What made you want to, and I guess I need to stop saying transition 1 and transition 2, but that's how I've been referring to it.
That's how I identify it too.
Okay. Well, I don't feel bad then because I've been saying transition 1 and transition 2, but transition, create the life you desire, and then transition, ashes, emanating beauty are almost like 2 different books, still with the foundation of the transition. So when we talk about transition, create the life you desire, how did that come to you? Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get some women and we're going to talk about this. Like, what was that thing that make you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to create transition to begin with?
Actually, I was in the airport on my way home from a conference, a business conference, and some ladies and I that had attended the conference, we were all waiting on our plane and we were talking, and I was like, I want to write a book. I just said, I'm going to write a book. We should all do it together. And they were like, yeah, you know how people are like, yeah, okay,
right,
but not really feeling it. So I was like, yeah, and, you know, we're all in different stages of our business. We can call it transition. And they're like, yeah, okay, you know. So got home, and immediately it just started pouring out of me. The foundation of what I wanted it to look like started pouring out. And I'm like, okay, Lord, well, if this is really what you want me to do, send me the people that's supposed to be a part of the book. And the first person came, the second person came. I mentioned it on social media. 3 more people came. And then it was like I would just get names. And I went to each person. Some of the people didn't, you know, take hold. And then the other 15 did. And it was just, I knew that the story needed to be told on how we made the decision to say, okay, I'm different. I don't want to be in the traditional setting. I want to create the life that I'm desiring in my heart. And it just took off.
Now, when we talk about create the life you desire, what is the one common theme you see in all the stories with that part of transition?
The common thread is that everybody was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Your story is one of the few that you had always been an entrepreneur. You tried the job thing and knew it wasn't for you, whereas the rest of us had been 9-to-5ers, and that wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't filling the need that we had to have that flexibility, to be able to set our own dollar amount and have the income that we wanted to have. We didn't have that the chance to just wake up and say, okay, we going on vacation this day. So I think all of us began to look at it like, hey, I see other ordinary women doing this. Why can't I? I have an idea. I have a dream. I have, you know, all these aspirations on the inside of me. Why can't I do it too? And we started to take steps towards that. In my story, I tell a little bit about the day that I made the decision, and I was in a conference, boring me to death. I could barely stay awake, and I just looked over at my boss and said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
It was that bad?
It was that bad. And I'm just like, and she looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is it. I'm done. And from that day forward, I started moving aggressively to build my business.
I definitely think that we all have that breaking point, so to speak, of, okay, I'm ready to do my own thing, or you've been ready to do your own thing, but you got to have that breaking point to further push you. And I know with me, I've always, if you guys know me in any way, shape, or form, I am bold. Hence, that's why it's in my title. And I could be stubborn. I'm doing this in air quotes. And I always knew that I wanted to set my own time, my own stuff. So my philosophy on things, because I've had several businesses and have always had that I just want to be my own boss. I really didn't know the wording for it, because I was very young when I just knew I wanted to be my own boss, and because I didn't like listening to people that I thought I was smarter than. And mind you, this is coming from my young self. So at a young age, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't like listening to people. So whatever that meant, and then it developed into other things later. What do you think stops women? Because a lot of us, I do believe, have that, I'm done, I need to start something, I need to kick it off right. But a lot of them don't make that transition to do anything with that breaking point. What do you think stops women from doing that?
The number one thing that stops anybody, not just women, especially women, because we have claimed the spot of the provider. But it stops, the number one thing that keeps us all in that stuck position is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of support, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of your shadow. I mean, it's just fear, all of it. And I have had to kick down the doors on fear, and it's still some things that I'm still saying, yeah, no, I don't think I can do that. But I'm going to kick down that door anyway, because I refuse to not leave my family a legacy that they can not only be proud of, but glean from.
And it's just, fear may never go away. And I've learned that, because I used to always use that term fearless. I'm fearless. I've been called fearless. And I realize, it's not that I'm fearless. I just know it may not go away, so I'm just going to face it. I'm just going to face it. And
Absolutely.
We limit ourselves a lot. Even with starting a business or just starting something new, we limit ourselves based on what may happen. I'd rather do it and see what actually happens than have that what if. That what if.
I've even gotten to the point in my journey where I'm like, okay, well, if it do fail, or I use the word rework. I don't like the word failure. If it doesn't work, then I'll rework it. Case in point, I have paid, since I started this journey, I've paid, I want to say, 5 people to create a website for me. And I've paid what they charge, no problem, because I wanted it done. And not until I was frustrated with this last time did I say, I'll do it myself. And I'm so proud of it that, 1, I did it, and 2, I conquered that fear of it not being right, and 3, because I think it looks amazing. So a lot of times we keep ourselves in that box from making the transition because we don't want to face the fear.
Congratulations on the website.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know that is a lot of work when you do it yourself, but there's a certain satisfaction because now it's something you could put in your arsenal of that you. It's not building a website. It is not for me, and I'm sure it wasn't for you because it's a headache and it's never perfect enough. And I think that's why a lot of women, people in general, men, I know you listen. I tried not to leave you guys out, so I'll say men too. A lot of times that wanting it to be perfect will keep us from even starting or attempting or trying. Because I know,
absolutely,
in one, I had to when those edits came back, all part of the writing process, and I sent it, and the edits came back, and I had to re-edit. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Re-edit it, retype it, refill it. Really, it's the word I was looking for because there's a difference between doing something to get it done and doing something because you are feeling it. So, I think it was a difference in that. I love the whole experience from transition, create the life you desire, and it actually became a bestseller. How was that moment? Did you think it was gonna reach there? Did you need to be pinched? What was that situation to know this book with your stamp on it is a bestseller?
It was liberating. I doubted it when I first almost gave y'all a guarantee. This is what we gonna do, and I sounded confident to everybody else.
It was
but
a
on
threat.
The inside, I'm like.
You heard me. That I don't know what you talking about. Guarantee that was a threat.
Yeah, I lightweight said, look, this is what we are going to do, and it was scary because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pay it off, pull it off, but I was determined to try. I was determined to figure out how everybody else could do it, and I couldn't. And it wasn't until I got in the thick of it did I realize I was putting my best foot forward, one, and two, it was the determination. Because it was some nights, and I was up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, had to be at work at 8 because I wanted to make sure, one, I delivered on what I said, and two, I wanted to push past that I can't do it because no one would tell me. So I researched it and I did it myself. So to those that are listening, when you get that in your spirit, that's just another tiny piece of fear. That waiting on someone else to tell you, that waiting on someone else to give you direction. You don't need anybody else to give you direction. It's your idea. You follow through on it. And if it takes you sacrificing sleep, if you want it bad enough, that's what you'll do.
Was the process harder or easier than you originally thought?
Pieces of it was harder than I thought. Of course, transition, create the life you desire with 16 women, and you know how that can be.
Right.
But I had some queens in my corner, Queen V, LB, if you on the call, and sometimes I say, look, I just need to talk. I'm ready to quit. But it would always be that, it's always this tough when you're going through it. Just think about when you get to the other side, and that's what I kept in the forefront of my mind. And then that day, October 20th, 2016, when those numbers, we got up to number 14, when I saw that we climbed from like 126,000 and some to number 14, I about lost my mind. I couldn't even contain the tears anymore.
You did a little bit.
I was just so excited. You said what?
I said you did a little bit. It was a exciting, unreal moment. Like it was for me. It was anytime you gain a new title that you put blood, sweat, and tears behind, especially. It's almost like an unrealistic moment, a pinching moment of, did this really just happen? And I think, I know I went through a bit of shock, like that shock where you can't, like, what? Really?
Right.
You know?
It even took me a minute to even start acknowledging that we were best-selling authors. Because I think once we hit 25, we were on the list. But I didn't tell y'all. I'm like, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing. And I just remember when I finally told y'all, they was like, wait a minute, what? We've been on the list for how long? You got us working this hard? But I really wanted to reach number one, but I know that there were certain things I needed to tweak in order for that to happen. But it was definitely a surreal moment. It solidified my ability and my inner strength and my belief in the power that I hold when I put my mind to something. So it was amazing. I have rode that wave, and it is starting to settle, and now we're picking up on Transition Ashes, Emanating Beauty. So
great segue. So, which brings us into talking about Transition Ashes, Emanating Beauty. This project. Okay, so why don't you tell the audience a little bit about this transition?
This transition came soon after Transition Create the Life You Desire. I was thinking about what other type of transitions we make, and how can this transition be distinctly different from the first transition. And I started to think about the different situations in our lives. And I said, let's talk about some stories that no one else wants to talk about. And that's when I started saying, I want to talk about the elephant in the room stories, the stories that everybody know about, but nobody wants to talk about. Let's talk about that, because I truly believe that we're in a season of healing, and in order to do that, we're going to have to start talking about some things. So I wanted this transition to not only talk about those things, the ashes, the burn down, but also for it to show the beauty that rises from the ashes.
Were you surprised by the stories once you received them?
Absolutely. I thought that they would all kind of be sort of the same. You and I had talked, and I knew what your story was. Nobody still knows what my stories are. But so I knew what your story was. I knew the type of stories I was looking for. So each of the ladies that said yes, they kind of gave me an overview of what they would talk about. But once I received them and was going through it, I was like, wow, this is deep. And by us giving, the tips and tools and lessons learned at the end of the stories, it just took it to a whole nother level.
I know with this transition, the first one was more of and I'm just speaking from a writer in both projects. The first one was more of a matter of fact type still a little feeling, but more matter of fact. This is what happened, very much like that. And this one was more, in my writing process, was more just all digging in my feelings, because I wanted this story to be felt. I wanted it to really have people evaluating themselves and their own thoughts and beliefs and the way we, some of us are raised. And so it was very much pulling it from my belly, so to speak, type story. So,
and that's exactly what I was going for. So that I know, and all of you have said that, and that's why I made it a point to say, don't put your feelings on the paper, but I knew you would go through the feelings, because the stories are they're personal, and you live through that, and writing about it, you relive through it, and editing it, you relive through it. So you have to keep going back to that space, that time, that place when it didn't feel good. But in what I know about writing, it allowed you to release, the residual that was there. And I think all of the stories turned out wonderfully. I am very proud of the end product, and I'll say it until the end of my time. I think that this book is going to change more lives than we ever imagined.
The title, Emanating. For those, because I did have to Google it. I had an idea of what it meant, but I went to my BFF, my BFF, who's gonna pay me one day, Google. Emanating, for those of us on the line who don't know what it means exactly, what does that word mean?
It means to originate from, or be produced by, or radiate, it would be another word for it, or spring forth, or emerge, or flow through. So the beauty that you see in each of the authors of this book, it derived from, or stemmed from, or emerged out of the ashes of what they had to go through, that breakdown for the build-up. And that is why I chose that word specifically, because it can mean or relate to so many other words that all say, I was in this ash place. I was burned down. I was broke down. I was hurt. But now I'm here, and this is the beauty from that.
And personally, I'm going to start incorporating that word into my vocabulary so people can ask me, what does that mean? Or they could go look it up, because it's a very interesting word, just in the way that it's, I love wordplay. I consider myself a bit of a wordsmith. So, so I love the poeticness of the word, and it for people that don't know, when you see it, it makes you wonder, what does it mean? And I think when people find out what it means, if they don't know, it makes the word that much more powerful. So,
and that in itself was another reason I chose the word, because people don't use it. I too am a wordsmith, and I love to play with words, and I love to learn new words. And I needed something, because that word in itself will make somebody pick up the book.
Right.
I know
Definitely.
It will, because it would make me pick up the book. Like, emanating, what's that?
Right.
And start to read and to understand what exactly is transpiring in the book. But I chose those words because specifically the ashes is because I took myself back to those places. In my story, just for those that are wondering, and this will be your first time knowing Tuvi, is the first story I shared is my journey to celibacy. Something that many adults don't talk about, but it needs to be addressed. Yeah, it's a deep piece. And when I had to go back to why I never practiced celibacy, it took me back to molestation, back to, all the men hopping at a young age. It took me back to all those hurtful places and why I did the things that I did. And that was an ash place for me. And then I see me now and being celibate for 4 years now. And the beauty that I see in me to where I don't have to give myself to a man to be beautiful. I don't. And I understand that clearly now. So I wanted to connect the two. And the only word I could find that described what I was feeling was emanating.
Very interesting. That's almost a whole other show in itself. Did you want to maybe touch on what the other stories are about, or because I know
sure.
You're doing okay, cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we are doing the interviews, but the other stories. One is there is celibacy, my journey to celibacy. There is broken chains. There is living in the jury box. There is, and that is, that one right there caught me off guard. There is permission granted, and that interview was. Those of you that are watching can go to my Facebook page and watch the interview with Tyree. That's her chapter is Permission Granted, talking about dancing with the devil. That was deep. And who am I missing? There is what was Shawana? Hold on, I'll give you. And then there's your story. What was your title again, V?
I have no earthly. just being honest. But mind you guys, if this has been written a while ago, this was written a while ago. So
I don't have it handy right this minute, but you can give a little hint of what your book is about. What your chapter is about.
My chapter, and that
living in the shade of gray. That's what your title is. That's what it is. Oh, living in the shade of gray. Living in the shade of gray. And I thought that it was so befitting. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We'll tell me a little bit about yours.
That is a really a good, because it very much describes the story. I'm talking about the good, bad, and ugly, those hush thoughts, the whispers behind the back, the real reactions to interracial marriage. Not your grandmother's conversation.
Absolutely not. Because I can tell you this, in Queen V's story, when I got it and I started reading it, I saw the title and I'm thinking, that's interesting. I knew what the topic, what you were going to speak on, but when I read what the comments were, I'm sitting over here, eyes bucked, mouth open, like, are you serious? Because I just couldn't believe that people, no less your family, would say some of the things that were said. It just blew me away.
And the only way you guys could catch all these good, juicy stories is in transition. So
absolutely.
Why, if somebody asks you this question, I kind of want you to kind of hit the nail with it. Why do women and men, why do we even need to transition? Period.
Oh, there are so many reasons why. But to just name a couple, the first and foremost reason for transitioning is growth, be it spiritual, physical, financial, just growth, period. Life, growing in life. You must transition from one thing to another. Another reason for transition is to become your authentic self. I believe you and I have all but mastered, being our authentic selves.
Right.
The other co-authors, I think some of them I may push a little harder, a little too hard sometimes. They're like, no, I don't want to. And I'm, pushing them, because once you become your authentic self, that transition piece is not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good sometimes. But once you meet your authentic self, I'll put it like that. Once you meet your authentic self and you understand your authentic self, you'll never want to do anything else. You won't have a desire to do anything but be authentically who you are, who you were created to be. And in being that authentic person, it will allow you won't have any other choice but to transition into purpose.
Very eloquent. Very eloquent.
Thank you.
And let me add, also, with being your authentic self, you learn that other people's opinions don't have as much weight as you thought before. And you really realize who are the necessary people in your life, and you also know what you're not going to tolerate. Y'all know I'm all about pruning season. My plant will not die.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you have going on this week? I know you mentioned the lives. How can they catch them, and what is that all about? Like, what are you doing?
This week is special edition, All Things Transition. And I am interviewing each co-author from Transition Ashes Emanating Beauty live at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook. Whether they follow you or follow me under Precious S. Brown, those interviews will run continuously through Friday. And then we release the Kindle version of the book for 99 cents on Amazon on Saturday. And the goal is to reach the mountaintop. Once again, this time I would love for us to be number one bestsellers. And that's what's pushing. But I really brought you ladies on the live feed interview style so that people can get to know who you are. Because there's something about our brains when we can put a face with a name and then hear you speak about what you're doing, and then I read it, it has a different impact than just them seeing a picture on the back of a book. Because what they'll remember is, oh, that's Valencia Griffin-Wallace. And then automatically their brain shifts to your voice. So they hear your voice as they read.
Very effective and very true. And my live, I believe, is Friday.
Absolutely.
And if you guys have ever seen me on anything live, you know what to expect. Sheer entertainment.
I cannot wait. That's why I had you close us out.
Oh my word. Okay. That's good. That's really good. So it's going to be very fun and interesting, and certain trademark Valencia things will be present, and that's what I'm going to say. And guys, I will make sure that all the videos will be posted on Define You Radio's Facebook page. So that way, if you go there, all the videos are there. You don't have to hunt for them. All of them will be posted on the Define You Radio's Facebook page. So definitely tune in to see all the action live and recorded, and then make sure you catch the albeit entertaining me and Precious together live Friday. That's like it's going to be syndicated or something. That's going to be like a whole show itself. I'm scared for the viewers.
Only that, your guests that have heard me several times and never saw me, this will be your chance to put a face with a name. So I think that's exciting as well. And get this, I saved this for your day because we're not giving out the Kindle link. We're not giving out the Kindle link until Friday. So on Friday, everybody will get the link. You'll be encouraged to download on Saturday and help us reach that mountaintop.
Yes, let's do it. So that way, when I come back next Tuesday, next week, I could give you guys a big announcement. So do your part with transition.
Absolutely.
So, we got the Kindle link. It's going to be released on Sunday. If they want to find out more about transition, create the life you desire, how would they get that one?
They could go to my website at www.penamasterpiece.com and go to the products page.
So simple.
That book is there. You can also order the Transition Ashes Emanating Beauty there, and then the books that we talked about previously, The Process of Change, they're there as well.
Yay. Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited for everything that's going on. I know it's going to hit number one because if you're listening to Define You Radio, and I know 13% of you guys are in Russia, okay, you could download it too.
Absolutely.
So we could hit that international bestseller. Just going to throw that out there.
Because, and I forgot to share that, V. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because we became international sellers with Transition Create the Life You Desire. And so going to bestseller, international bestseller, would be a major accomplishment.
Let's do this. I'm ready. So you guys hear all of that. Do your part. Go to Define You Radio's Facebook page where I will post all the videos from this week and the other authors, and make sure you tune in to put a face to Precious. Y'all have heard her before. And in case you never seen me, a face to me also. It will be sheer entertainment, I promise. And that would be at 6, all week. It's at 6:15 Eastern time. So, Precious, is there anything you would like to leave the audience with? I want to make sure everybody has any information they need to connect with you and to get the book and all of everything having to do with transition and Miss Precious.
Oh, thank you. The last thing I would want to say to the listeners is don't fight the transition. Don't fight that change that is raging to get out of you, because your best self, your best you, is on the other side of that fear that's keeping you stagnant. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Precious S. Brown. Be sure to like the Facebook page, Pen a Masterpiece, Pen a Masterpiece. Those of you that are aspiring writers and you are women, you are more than welcome to join the Masterpiece Gallery on Facebook, where we share inspiration, encouragement, tips, tools on all things writing. And you can also, I think that's it. You can join the newsletter, or when you go to the website www.penamasterpiece.com. When you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a free gift.
What? I like gifts. I'm gonna have to sign up. I like gifts.
Yes.
Miss P, Queen P, all of the P's. Thank you so much for coming on again. Guys, do not forget to go to the website, penamasterpiece.com. And remember, I before E except after C, if you're trying to think about how to spell masterpiece.
Absolutely. I still use that rule.
Me too. I have to say it all the time. Thank you again, guys. Make sure you tune in next week. Yay! As we talk to another one of the co-authors of Transition, and hopefully we'll have a big announcement. Well, I'm not worried about that because you guys are going to do your part. So we're going to have Queen P back on as we make the huge announcement live on the radio. I'm just saying, yay! We're doing it up. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed today's session, stay connected by subscribing to the show on iTunes and Google Play. Y'all know I close out with a quote, and I think this kind of sums up the whole reason behind Transition. It's from Serena Van Der Woodson. Whew, I swagged that one out. People don't tell you who you are, you tell them. That's what a transition is all about. With that being said, guys, peace and love. Thank you again, Precious, and all the listeners. I will catch you next week. Class is officially over.
Thanks for listening to Define You Radio. Class is in session. Connect with the show at www.defineyouradio.com. Pens and papers down. Class is over.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers. Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers. Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.